How to Make a Spaceship, a Band of Renegades, an Epic Race, and the Birth of Private Spaceflight by Julian Guthrie. It seems that in the past few years, private space companies have been getting a lot of attention. With the retiring of the shuttle, the United States has been forced to buy rides from Russia to the International Space Station. But slowly but surely, companies have been developing their rockets, most notably probably SpaceX, probably being the most likely to actually ferry people to the space station before anyone else, seeing as how they're already doing the resupply missions. But this book really outlines the actual spark that got the public's interest. There's a small collection of people that really got the ball rolling, and it started not when the shuttle was coming down to when the shuttle was about to be retired, but it started when they were kids. This book goes all the way back to the founders of the X Prize, to those people who worked for Scaled Composites, ultimately the people that won the X Prize, all the way back to their childhoods. And they were really, their interests in space started all the way back then. Some of the kids went as far as to experiment with solid rocket mixtures to the point where they blew up the pool, and the explosion was so great that the mom who was making lunch for everyone felt the house move. And there's lots of stories like that when you're messing around with high explosives. That can happen. But again, this is going back some time, and this is a time period where you could order a lot of chemicals to make solid rocket fuel just through the mail. Obviously, you can't do that now. You can't buy fertilizer without getting carded. But way back when, that was totally fine. And of course, they learned from their experiences and obviously got a lot better. Burt Butan actually started his company Scaled Composites way later, which ultimately is the company that built the winner of the X Prize, which is the ship on the cover. But really, this book goes and outlines his career and how he got to that point. All the different aircraft that he had designed. He was always chasing records. For example, one of the planes he designed was the first to fly around the world without stopping or refueling, and the challenges that design had to overcome for that feat to happen. And to the actual guy who organized the X Prize. What's surprising to me is that when he announced it in St. Louis with the Lindenberg family present, he didn't actually have the $10 million set aside for the prize. It wasn't until way later that he secured funding by some of the most unlikely corporations imaginable. Ultimately, the last $5 million was funded by an insurance policy it took out, which was personally my favorite part of the book, because the insurance company, after they did the policy for $5 million, were bragging that it was the easiest money they'd ever make. But as time went on, the people that were actually competing for the prize actually started to show some promise. Another thing that was very interesting about it was when they're building their spaceships, they're not ordering specific parts that are machined from some crazy expensive company. For example, like some of the tanks they used on the inside of these ships for thrusters or whatever were paintball canisters. So a lot of it was just parts that they scraped together from wherever they could find it, and they just made it work. Really duct taped together in a lot of ways. But it outlines the truly epic struggle that was getting this whole thing together, from the prize money side all the way to the different teams that were all competing. And there's a lot of big names that appear. For example, Elon Musk appears. This is all right around the time when he's going to Russia trying to buy ICBMs, when he was trying to start a greenhouse on Mars, when he was previous to even starting SpaceX. This is right when his interest was he was kind of getting momentum in that direction. But ultimately, the funding, the people he would approach, boardroom after boardroom, most of them said no, but the ones that were interested weren't interested in funding the actual prize. For example, Richard Branson. Richard Branson was interested in funding the company that was going to win the prize. So he had a very odd challenge. So in this book, we see not only the beginning of the private space industry and ultimately the retiring of the shuttle, but you see a lot of these companies that we're starting to hear about now. For example, like I said, SpaceX and Virgin Galactic, all in their infancy. For example, when they actually lit the rocket for the first time from Scaled Composites, when it was dropped from the mothership, it goes back and forth between a dialogue between the pilot in the rocket ship and a chase plane, the first powered test. And you have to wonder what kind of a person would sit in a rocket ship for the first time, designed by people who had never designed a spaceship before. What kind of person would actually give it a shot. Well, as it turns out, when it was dropped from the plane, he hits the boosters, and the thing just shakes like crazy. And as he's leaving the atmosphere, the chase plane is squawking in his ear, looking good, and the whole time the thing felt like it was going to break apart. So if you're interested in space travel and a fan of following these companies that are really trying to do what only governments up until this point have succeeded at, I strongly recommend you check out How to Make a Spaceship. Because literally that's what these people are doing. They're building spaceships basically in their backyard. Thanks for watching. Hope you liked it. Please subscribe. Talk to you next time.